The Central Academy of Science was one of the most respected institutions on Earth. It stood on a high hill, its glass walls shining in the morning light. Students from all over the world dreamed of studying there. Inside the main lecture hall, the air always smelled of new ideas and heated discussions. Professor Mara entered the hall with her usual confidence. She was known for her sharp mind and strict nature. Her students admired her brilliance but also feared her temper. She had once solved a physics problem that other scientists had debated for 20 years. Because of that, everyone looked at her as if she were beyond reach. On that morning, she wore her white lab coat, her dark hair tied neatly behind her head. She walked to the front, her shoes clicking softly on the clean floor. The large holographic board behind her glowed blue, ready to display any equation she wished to write. The students sat silently as she tapped on the panel. Numbers and symbols filled the air in glowing light. The equation was long and complex, twisting across the space like an unending chain. Even the most talented students frowned in confusion. This, Mara said, pointing at the formula, is known as the fold equation. It describes how to bend space to travel faster than light without tearing matter apart. It has been called impossible for over 100 years. A student raised his hand and asked, "Professor, has anyone ever come close to solving it?" Mara smiled slightly. Many have tried. Some of the brightest minds on Earth and beyond have attempted it. Even our friends from the Orion colonies tested it with quantum simulators. None succeeded. The math always collapses before reaching stability. She turned back to the board, adding more symbols that no one understood. Then she stepped away and crossed her arms. "If anyone here ever solves it," she said jokingly, "I will marry that person and hand them my Nobel Prize." The hall filled with laughter. The students looked at each other, shaking their heads. They all knew it was impossible. For them, it was like saying someone could catch a star with their hands. At the back of the hall, near the corner where few ever looked, a man quietly swept the floor. He wore a gray uniform and carried a small cleaning machine. His name was Tom. To most people, he was invisible. Tom's face was calm, his hair a little messy, and his hands were rough from years of work. Every day he cleaned the lecture halls, fixed the lights, and polished the floors. He was quiet and polite, never speaking unless spoken to. But as the laughter faded, Tom's eyes stayed fixed on the glowing equation. His hands slowed. He stared at it like someone seeing a memory. He whispered under his breath, "It's not impossible." No one heard him. The students were busy packing their tablets and leaving the room. Mara smiled proudly as she closed her notes. Tom finished sweeping and waited until the hall emptied. He walked slowly toward the board. The blue light reflected in his eyes. He stood there studying every number, every symbol. His lips moved slightly as if he were speaking to the formula itself. He knew this equation. Years ago, before he became a janitor, he had worked in a hidden laboratory in the northern mountains. That lab had been part of a secret government project called Horizon Fold. The goal was to create a stable path through space that could shorten the distance between stars. Tom had been one of the youngest scientists there. He was gifted but humble. The project had ended in disaster after a miscalculation caused an energy collapse, destroying the entire lab. Many scientists left the field, their reputations ruined. Tom was blamed, though he had tried to warn them. Unable to find work, he disappeared from the scientific world. He never stopped thinking about that equation. Every night he would scribble notes on old papers, trying to find the missing link. When he joined the academy as a janitor, it was only to stay close to knowledge again, even if from a distance. Now, seeing the same equation in front of him felt like fate calling his name. He reached out, his fingers almost touching the board. Then he stepped back, took a deep breath, and walked away. That night, when everyone had gone home, Tom returned. The security lights glowed softly through the windows. The hall was silent except for the hum of machines. He entered quietly with a small bag of his own tools. He activated the board and the equation appeared again. The system asked for an access code, but Tom knew how to override it. Old habits from his research days guided his hands. He started writing. Lines of numbers filled the space. The symbols danced before his eyes. His mind worked faster than he could speak. He was not just solving, he was seeing. To him, the math was alive, flowing like rivers joining together. Hours passed. He wrote correction after correction, balancing energy and mass, shifting probabilities until the formula stabilized. He could feel it nearing completion. Sweat rolled down his face, but he didn't stop. Outside, a storm was building. Rain hit the windows, lightning flashed, but Tom didn't notice. His world was the equation. Finally, after what felt like eternity, the board flashed green. The equation held steady, perfect, and balanced. Tom stepped back, breathing heavily. The board showed a small simulation. A sphere of light folded in on itself and reappeared miles away. It worked. For a long moment, Tom stood still. He couldn't believe it. The thing humanity had chased for centuries now floated before him in glowing light. He saved the file under a simple name, Solution A. Then he turned off the system, picked up his bag, and left the hall. He didn't tell anyone. He walked into the rain, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The next morning, Professor Mara arrived early as usual. She expected another ordinary day. When she entered the hall, she noticed something strange. The board was filled with symbols from top to bottom. Every inch was covered in perfect handwriting. Her first thought was irritation. "Who touched my board?" she said aloud. She stepped closer, planning to erase it, but something made her stop. The math looked different, clean, logical, beautiful. She began to read. Her heart started to race. Line by line, it made sense. The variables fit together like puzzle pieces. The energy ratios balanced in a way she had never seen before. She forgot to breathe as she reached the final section. The equation ended with a small notation, a proof of stability. It was flawless. Her knees weakened. She sat down, staring at the board as if it were magic. The problem that had mocked scientists for generations had been solved. Students began arriving, chatting and laughing, but their voices faded as they saw her expression. They looked at the board, then at each other. "Professor," one student whispered, "who did this?" Mara stood slowly. "I don't know," she said softly, "but whoever did this just changed everything." In the corner, Tom quietly entered the hall with his broom. He began sweeping, keeping his eyes low. He didn't look at the board, though he could feel every symbol in his mind. Mara's eyes moved across the room and paused on him for just a second. Something in her expression changed. She didn't speak, but deep inside a thought formed. A strange, impossible thought. Could it be him? The question stayed with her all day. The image of the neat handwriting, the precision, the quiet figure in the corner, they all connected in her mind. But it was too absurd to believe. By afternoon, the academy buzzed with whispers. The rumor spread fast. Some said an alien had broken into the lab. Others said an AI had solved it overnight. No one suspected the janitor. That evening, Mara locked herself in her office and reviewed the copied data. The numbers worked flawlessly in every simulation. The energy remained stable at 2% fluctuation, something no model had ever achieved before. She ran the test again. The same result. Her heart pounded. Whoever solved it had just given humanity a new path through the stars. Outside her office window, she saw Tom walking across the courtyard, pushing his cleaning cart under the soft glow of the lamps. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Mara didn't know it yet. But the man she passed every day, the one who swept her floors and emptied her trash, was about to become the most important human being in the galaxy. The night settled over the academy, quiet and still. Somewhere in that silence, the impossible had become possible, and no one knew how much the world had just changed. The next day at the Central Academy of Science was far from ordinary. The air was filled with curiosity and excitement. Students gathered in groups, whispering about the mysterious solution that had appeared overnight on Professor Mara's board. No one knew who had written it, but everyone could feel that something incredible had happened. Professor Mara arrived early again. She walked through the halls with her usual confidence, but her thoughts were restless. The image of the glowing symbols haunted her mind. She had checked the formulas all night, and every part of it was correct. It was not a trick or a coincidence. It was the work of someone who understood space-folding theory at a level beyond anyone she knew. When she reached her lecture hall, she saw Tom cleaning near the front row. He was moving slowly, his attention focused on the floor. Mara watched him for a moment. He looked ordinary, tired perhaps, but calm. She wanted to ask him if he had seen anyone enter the hall the night before. Still, something held her back. She decided to speak anyway. "Tom," she said. Tom looked up, slightly startled. "Yes, Professor? You were here late last night, right?" she asked. He nodded. Yes, I had to clean the hall after the evening session. Did you notice anyone near the board? Maybe a student trying to play a joke? Tom shook his head. No, Professor. I was the last one here. When I left, the hall was empty. Mara studied his face carefully. His expression was calm and honest. There was no sign of guilt or nervousness. She sighed softly. All right. Thank you. Tom nodded and continued his work. Mara walked to the board again. Even after being copied and saved, she could not bring herself to erase it. The equation looked almost alive. During her lecture, she spoke to the students about the nature of discovery. Sometimes, she said, great knowledge comes from unexpected places. The human mind is full of mysteries. Never think that brilliance belongs only to the ones with degrees or awards. The students listened quietly. Her tone was different that day. She seemed more thoughtful, less strict. After class, several professors from other departments came to see the board. They debated its meaning and structure. Some refused to believe it was real. Others were speechless at how elegantly it solved the space folding problem. Meanwhile, Tom went about his usual tasks. He cleaned the physics labs, checked the lights in the library, and replaced broken screens in the corridors. He heard the rumors spreading, but he stayed silent. Inside, he felt a quiet satisfaction. Not pride, but peace. For years, he had carried the weight of failure. The Horizon Fold project had been his life's work. When it collapsed, the blame had fallen on him. His calculations had been right, but his warnings ignored. The explosion that followed had destroyed everything he cared about. He had lost friends, his career, and his place in the scientific world. Since then, he had lived a simple life. Cleaning floors was not glorious, but it gave him time to think. The equation had never left his mind. Every night after work, he would scribble notes on scraps of paper, searching for the missing connection that could make the math stable. Now that he had solved it, he felt no need to boast. The discovery was not about fame. It was about redemption. Later that afternoon, Mara called a special meeting with the Academy's director, Dr. Han, and 2 senior researchers. They gathered in her office, surrounded by screens filled with data. Dr. Han, an older man with a calm voice, looked at the results. This is extraordinary, he said. Are you certain this is not a simulation error? Mara shook her head. I ran it through 3 separate systems. Each one confirmed the stability. The math holds perfectly. One of the senior researchers, Dr. Lena, frowned. If this is genuine, then whoever wrote it understands spatial compression at a level beyond current models. We must find them, Dr. Han agreed. Yes, whoever did this could change the future of humanity. If the energy requirement is truly as low as this suggests, then interstellar travel will become real within our lifetime. Mara hesitated, then spoke. I believe the person might still be inside the academy. Dr. Lena looked surprised. A student? I don't think so, Mara replied. The handwriting is too steady. The structure of the solution shows experience, patience, and years of deep study. It's not the work of a beginner. Then who? Dr. Han asked. Mara glanced out the window toward the courtyard where she saw Tom walking slowly with his cart. I don't know, she said softly. The group decided to begin an investigation. Security footage from the previous night would be checked. Every entry and exit record would be reviewed. That evening, Tom was in the cafeteria sitting alone with his meal. He always sat near the window watching the sunset while eating in silence. He noticed people talking more than usual. Their faces were full of excitement and speculation. He smiled faintly. Humans loved mysteries. Suddenly, he heard someone call his name. It was Mara. She walked toward him with a small notebook in her hand. The entire room grew quiet. Tom, she said, may I sit with you for a moment? He nodded politely. Of course, Professor. She sat down. For a while, neither spoke. Then she opened her notebook, showing him a printed copy of the solved equation. Do you recognize this? She asked. Tom looked at it, his face calm. Yes, I saw it yesterday morning on your board. I mean the solution, she said, her voice lowering. Do you know who could have done this? Tom paused, then shook his head slowly. No, Professor. But whoever did, they are very talented. Mara studied him closely. She sensed something behind his quiet words. His eyes carried a depth she could not explain, as if he had seen and lived through more than anyone around them. Tom, she said finally, you speak like someone who understands this formula. He smiled slightly. I used to study similar things a long time ago. Mara's interest grew stronger. Where did you study? Tom looked out the window. At a place that no longer exists. His answer left her silent. She wanted to ask more, but something in his tone stopped her. There was pain there, old and deep. She decided not to push further. After a short pause, she said, "You know, this equation could change everything. If we can confirm it, humanity might finally travel beyond the colonies." Tom nodded. That is what knowledge should do. It should open doors. Mara felt a strange respect growing for this quiet man. She could not explain why, but she felt that behind his simple words lay a great mind. Later that night, the Academy's security department reviewed the camera footage. The images showed Tom entering the lecture hall after hours and standing before the board for a long time. They watched as he began to write line after line. The recording ended after several hours, showing the completed equation glowing on the board. The next morning, Dr. Hahn called Mara into his office. "We found your mystery solver," he said. "It's the janitor." Mara felt a rush of surprise followed by disbelief. "Tom?" Dr. Hahn nodded. "The footage is clear. He wrote everything, alone, without notes, without hesitation. I think you should speak to him." Mara left the office in silence. She walked through the halls, her mind spinning. How could a janitor solve a problem that had defeated the best scientists in the galaxy? When she reached the maintenance room, she found Tom fixing a light panel. He looked up and smiled politely. "Good morning, Professor." Mara folded her arms. "Why didn't you tell me?" Tom paused. "About what?" "About the equation," she said. "You solved it." "I saw the footage." He sighed softly and set his tools down. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." "Why would you think that?" she asked. "Because they didn't believe me before," Tom replied. His voice was calm, but there was sadness in it. "Once I worked on a project that tried to do the same thing. It failed. People got hurt. Since then, I decided it was better to stay quiet." Mara felt a mix of emotions. She wanted to ask about his past, but she also felt respect. "You understand what this means, don't you?" she said. "You've done something that will change the future of humanity." Tom nodded slowly. "I only finished what I started years ago." Mara smiled faintly. "You know, I said in class that anyone who solved it could marry me." "I was joking, of course," Tom chuckled. "I know, Professor, and I'm not here for jokes or prizes." "What are you here for, then?" she asked. He looked at the glowing ceiling light above them. "To see if people have learned to listen before they destroy something again." His words made her quiet. She realized there was a story behind them, a painful one. Later that day, Mara presented Tom's work to the Academy Council. The scientist confirmed his results once more. The equation was valid. The energy model worked under every test. The impossible had become possible. By evening, news began to spread beyond the Academy. A janitor had solved the greatest scientific problem of the century. Reporters, government officials, and scientists from other worlds started sending messages. Humanity was about to take a giant leap, and it had all begun with a broom in one hand and a mind that never gave up. As night fell, Tom stood alone outside the Academy, looking up at the stars. They seemed closer now, as if calling to him again. For the first time in many years, he smiled. The quiet man who swept the floors had shaken the universe without even trying. The news spread faster than light across the Central Academy of Science. Within 24 hours, every research department, media outlet, and government office knew the unbelievable truth. A janitor named Tom had solved the fold equation, the same problem that had challenged humanity and alien scientists for centuries. By morning, the Academy gates were surrounded by reporters. Cameras hovered in the air and drones recorded every movement. Students rushed to their classes, whispering and pointing. For many, it felt like a story from a dream. Inside the main hall, Professor Mara tried to stay calm, but her heart was racing. The board that once displayed the equation was now protected behind a transparent energy shield. A holographic copy floated above the stage, its glowing lines admired by everyone who entered. Dr. Hahn stood beside Mara, looking serious. "The government has contacted us," he said. "They want to meet the man who solved this. They're sending a science delegation and some military observers." Mara nodded. "They'll want to see if it's real." "They already did," Dr. Hahn replied. "We ran multiple tests. The energy reduction model is correct. This could make faster-than-light travel possible without massive fuel consumption. She glanced at Tom, who stood quietly near the back of the hall. He wore the same gray uniform as always, looking calm despite the chaos around him. He seemed completely unaffected by the attention. "Are you sure he is ready for all this?" she asked softly. Dr. Han smiled faintly. "He looks more ready than any of us." As the day went on, the academy prepared for the government team's arrival. Scientists adjusted their equipment. Reporters set up broadcast screens. Students waited outside to catch a glimpse of Tom. When the delegation finally arrived, the atmosphere grew tense. The leader was a tall man named Commander Rian, known for his cold and professional manner. He walked straight into the hall, his sharp eyes scanning everything. Mara greeted him politely. "Welcome to the Central Academy, Commander." He nodded. "Thank you, Professor. I came to see the equation and the man who wrote it." Tom stepped forward, his posture straight and respectful. "That would be me," he said. Commander Ryan studied him closely. "You are the janitor?" "Yes," Tom answered simply. "And you solved the fold equation overnight?" "I solved it after many years," Tom replied. The commander's expression softened slightly. "We ran simulations on your formula. It works." Our best scientists could not believe it. "How did you manage it?" Tom looked thoughtful. "I stopped trying to force the universe to obey me. I started listening to it instead." The room grew silent. Even the reporters stopped whispering. Tom's words carried a weight that went beyond science. Commander Rian finally said, "You understand what this means, don't you? If this equation works, humanity will move beyond the colonies. We will reach new galaxies." Tom nodded. "Yes, but every discovery comes with responsibility. Folding space can move ships, but it can also destroy them if used without care." Mara watched him speak with quiet pride. She had spent her life studying equations and theories, but she had never heard anyone speak of science with such wisdom and humility. The commander smiled slightly. "The government would like you to work with our top scientists. You'll have full access to resources and you'll lead the research team." Tom hesitated. "I'm not sure I belong in a laboratory anymore." "You do now," Commander Rian said. "The world needs you." After the meeting, Tom was escorted to a secure lab deep beneath the academy. The room was filled with advanced quantum simulators and energy stabilizers. A group of scientists waited, eager to learn from him. Tom began to explain his process. He drew simple shapes on a digital board, showing how energy could bend space like cloth. He used easy words, but his meaning was powerful. "Most people think of space as empty," he said, "but it's not. It's a field of tension. If you fold it gently, it allows passage. If you force it, it resists. The secret is balance." The scientists listened with full attention. They realized that Tom's approach was not just mathematical but intuitive. He treated space like a living thing, not a machine. After several hours of explanation, Tom requested to run a test. "We need a small energy core and a basic drone," he said. The team prepared the setup. The drone floated in a containment field. Tom entered the coordinates into the system and activated the fold equation. The holographic grid shimmered. The drone vanished from one spot and reappeared across the room in less than a second. The scientists gasped. It worked perfectly. No damage, no energy loss. Mara, who had been watching through the glass, felt her heart swell with pride. Humanity had just taken its first real step toward true faster-than-light travel. Commander Ryan turned to Tom. "You've done something extraordinary. The universe will remember your name." Tom smiled faintly. "Names are not important. What matters is that we use this wisely." The commander nodded. "That will depend on us all." Within days, the world outside changed. News networks across Earth and the colonies broadcasted the story. The janitor who solved the stars became the headline everywhere. People called Tom a genius, a hero, even a symbol of human perseverance. Children watched videos of him on their classroom screens. Scientists debated his theories on live broadcasts. Politicians promised new funding for space exploration. Despite the attention, Tom continued his quiet routine. He still walked through the academy halls each morning, greeting students and cleaning the same rooms. When reporters tried to follow him, he kindly asked them to leave him alone. Mara once asked him why he still worked as a janitor. He smiled and said, "Because it keeps me grounded." "The floor needs care just as much as the stars do," she laughed softly. "You are not like anyone I've met." "Neither are you," he replied. "You believed in the equation when no one else did. Their friendship grew. They often spent evenings in the lab, discussing science and philosophy. Mara learned that Tom's knowledge came not only from study, but from patience and observation. He believed that human beings were meant to understand the universe not by conquering it, but by harmonizing with it. One night, Mara asked him about his past. "You mentioned a project that failed. Was it related to this?" Tom nodded slowly. "Yes, it was called Horizon Fold. We tried to achieve the same result using massive energy fields. We forced the fold instead of guiding it. The reaction tore through the facility. Many good people were lost. I survived, but I couldn't forgive myself." Mara listened quietly. She could see the sorrow in his eyes. "You blamed yourself for something that wasn't your fault." "I was part of it," he said. "So I carry it. But now you've made it right," she said gently. "Maybe," Tom replied. "But the lesson is not about pride. It's about humility. We must never think we control the universe. We only learn to travel within it." Over the next few weeks, humanity's greatest minds joined the project. Engineers from the Mars colonies, physicists from the Titan base, and even alien scholars from nearby systems came to study the equation. For the first time in history, humans and aliens worked together without rivalry. The new technology was named the Tom Drive in his honor, though he never approved of that title. "It belongs to everyone," he insisted. "I only found the path." During one major test, a prototype ship equipped with the new drive prepared for its first space fold. Tom and Mara watched from the control room. The ship shimmered, folded into light, and vanished from sensors. For a tense moment, everyone held their breath. Then the signal reappeared. The ship had arrived safely in orbit around Jupiter in an instant. Cheers erupted across the control center. People hugged and shouted in joy. Humanity had done it. Mara turned to Tom with tears in her eyes. "You did it," she said. Tom shook his head. "We did it." The commander stepped forward. "Tom, you have given us the stars. What will you do now?" Tom looked out the window at the glowing horizon. "I'll rest for a while. Let others continue. I've done my part." That night, while the academy celebrated, Tom walked through the quiet halls. The laughter and cheers echoed behind him, but he preferred the silence. He stopped in front of the old lecture hall where it all began. The board still showed the equation shining softly. He placed his hand on the glass and whispered, "It was never about me. It was about us." Outside, the sky was full of stars, and for the first time in human history, those stars were within reach. The revelation of Tom's discovery did more than change science. It changed how people saw humanity itself. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations watched in disbelief. For centuries, they had viewed humans as reckless explorers. Now they saw them as something greater, dreamers who could see patterns where others saw chaos. The Central Academy of Science had become the heart of a new age. Across Earth and the colonies, people spoke about Tom, the quiet janitor who had changed everything. His discovery was more than science. It had turned fear into hope. It had given humanity a key to the stars. Every day, scientists worked inside the laboratories testing new designs for ships that could travel across galaxies. The fold equation was no longer a mystery. It was now the foundation of a future that once seemed like fantasy. Professor Mara was at the center of it all, leading the research with Tom beside her. Together, they checked simulations, guided young scientists, and trained new engineers on how to handle the fold drive safely. They worked long hours, often late into the night, sharing quiet conversations and deep thoughts about what their discovery meant for the world. But as the excitement grew, so did curiosity about Tom's past. People wanted to know where he came from and how he had learned such impossible knowledge. The media called him the unknown genius. The government asked him to share his records. Yet Tom always avoided questions about his history. One afternoon, Commander Rian called a private meeting with Mara. The room was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of computers. "Mara," Rian said, "we need to talk about Tom." She looked at him worried. "What about him?" "He refuses to give us full details about his background. The files we found show he worked at a classified research facility years ago, but the records end suddenly. We don't know what happened after that." "There is something missing." Mara frowned. "He is not a threat, Commander. He only wants to help," Ryan nodded. "I know, but the fold equation has military value. If his knowledge comes from a dangerous source, we need to know." Our enemies could try to reach him, she sighed softly. I'll talk to him. But please remember, Tom is not like others. He doesn't chase power. He only wants peace. That evening, Mara found Tom in the observation deck. He was standing by the wide window, looking at the night sky. Stars glowed like silver dust across the dark sea. You look troubled, she said as she joined him. Tom smiled faintly, just thinking how small we are and how big the universe is. She stood beside him in silence for a while, then said gently, Tom, I need to ask you something important. Commander Rian wants to know more about your past. He said your old records are incomplete. Tom's eyes remained fixed on the stars. I expected this to happen. You can trust me, Mara said softly. Whatever it is, you can tell me. Tom took a slow breath. I used to work for a project called Horizon. It was a secret research program funded by the Earth Council almost 20 years ago. We were trying to create faster-than-light travel using massive energy reactors. I was one of the youngest scientists there. I thought we were doing something beautiful. He paused, his voice growing heavy. But we made mistakes. We tried to force the fold with brute power. The calculations were wrong. The energy collapsed and caused an explosion. It destroyed the entire facility. Many people died. I survived, but the government blamed me for the failure. I was banned from research, so I disappeared. Mara's heart ached. That's why you became a janitor. Yes, Tom said quietly. I wanted to stay close to knowledge, even if I could not be part of it. The academy was a place where I could listen to science again. I never stopped working on the equation. I wanted to fix what I had broken. Mara touched his arm gently. You have done more than fix it. You saved it. You saved us, Tom smiled sadly. Maybe, but I still see the faces of those who were lost. The fold equation came at a cost. That is why I keep reminding people to be careful. Power without wisdom can destroy everything. Mara nodded. She understood now why Tom was different. His intelligence came with humility because he had seen what arrogance could do. The next day, she told Commander Rian everything. He listened carefully, then sighed. So he carries the weight of a tragedy. That explains much. Yes, Mara said firmly. But he deserves our trust, Rian agreed. He has earned it. Still, we must protect him. There are others who would use his knowledge for war. His words proved true sooner than anyone expected. Within weeks, rumors spread that foreign powers and rogue colonies wanted to steal the fold technology. The academy increased its security. Surveillance drones guarded the skies. Armed officers patrolled the halls. Tom, however, continued to work calmly as if none of it mattered. Fear only grows when you feed it, he told Mara one night. We should focus on teaching people how to use this gift wisely. Under his guidance, the academy created the Fold Academy program, training young engineers to understand not just the mechanics of the equation but also its philosophy. The fold is balanced, Tom often said. You do not fight space. You flow with it. Students listened to him with respect. Even the most advanced scientists admired how he could explain the hardest ideas in the simplest way. As months passed, the first generation of fold ships began testing longer journeys. The first successful jump to another star system was a moment of triumph. The ship named Horizon Light returned safely after traveling 30 light-years in minutes. The crew reported smooth passage and no energy loss. The whole world celebrated. Fireworks lit the skies over Earth. People gathered in the streets cheering for the future. Tom watched from the academy window, his face calm and peaceful. Mara stood beside him. They're calling it a miracle, she said. It's not a miracle, Tom replied. It's understanding, she smiled. You always say that? Because it's true, he said. We don't need miracles when we learn to listen. Soon after, the Earth Council invited Tom and Mara to a ceremony in the capital city. It was the largest event in human history, broadcast to every colony and outpost. Leaders from different planets attended. Even alien representatives came to witness the man who had changed the galaxy. Tom stood on stage wearing a simple suit. He refused all special uniforms and medals. The audience rose in applause that lasted several minutes. The president handed him a crystal plaque engraved with the words, "For expanding the human horizon." When it was his turn to speak, Tom stepped forward slowly. His voice was calm but powerful. I am honored, he said, but this discovery does not belong to me alone. It belongs to all of humanity. It belongs to every mind that dreams, every heart that dares to ask why. I was once a man who failed. I thought science was about control. I was wrong. Science is about harmony. The universe is not our enemy. It is our home. We must treat it with respect. The crowd was silent, moved by his words. Even the alien guests nodded in agreement. Tom ended his speech simply. May we travel far, not to conquer, but to understand. After the ceremony, Mara and Tom walked through the city streets together. Lights shone from every building, celebrating the new era. People recognized Tom and thanked him as he passed, but he remained humble. Mara looked at him and said, "You gave them hope." He shook his head. Hope was already inside them. I just reminded them it existed. The next morning, a government transport arrived at the academy carrying new equipment and research documents. Commander Rian met Tom and Mara in the lab. His face looked serious. "Tom," he said, "our scanners detected something strange near the edge of the solar system. An unknown signal. It seems to follow the energy signature of your fold equation." Tom frowned. "Could it be a reflection from one of our tests?" "No," Rian replied. "The signal came before our first test. We traced it back years. It matches data from your old project, Horizon Fold." Mara felt a chill. "You mean the failed experiment?" "Yes," Ryan said. "We believe something survived out there." Tom's eyes darkened. "That's impossible. The explosion destroyed everything." "Maybe not," Ryan said quietly. "We're sending a probe to investigate. But if it's connected to your old work, we'll need your help." Tom stood silent for a moment, thinking. Then he nodded. "I will help. If something was left behind, we must find it before others do." That night, as the stars shimmered above, Tom stood alone in the courtyard. The breeze was cool and the moonlight touched his face. He remembered the lab, the faces of his old team, and the sound of the explosion. Mara found him there. "Are you all right?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Yes, but I have a feeling the past is not finished with me yet." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Whatever comes, you won't face it alone." Tom nodded. "Thank you, Mara." They stood together in silence, looking at the stars that now seemed closer than ever. But somewhere out there beyond the light, something waited. Something connected to the equation that had given humanity its wings. The discovery of the unknown signal sent waves of concern across the Central Academy of Science. Scientists, engineers, and even government officials worked day and night to trace it. The energy signature was strange and familiar. It mirrored the fold equation, but it was amplified, unpredictable, and unlike anything Tom had ever seen. Tom stood in the control room, his eyes fixed on the display screens. Multiple probes orbited the outer planets following the signal. Mara and Commander Rian stood beside him. The room was tense, filled with soft beeps and the low hum of machinery. "I can't believe this is possible," Mara said softly. "I thought everything from Horizon Fold was destroyed." Tom shook his head. "Not everything. Some fragments of our work may have survived in space. Energy doesn't disappear completely. It leaves traces. This signal could be one of them." Ryan leaned forward, pointing at the largest monitor. "The probe is approaching the source. We will have visuals in seconds." The screen flickered and a three-dimensional image of a massive structure appeared. It was unlike any human construction. Metallic panels floated in strange formations joined by glowing energy threads. The fold equation itself seemed to pulse in the structure, as if the energy was alive. Tom's heart raced. He could recognize the work, though it had changed over decades. This is a remnant of Horizon Fold," he said quietly. "But it has evolved. Somehow the energy stabilized itself. It learned," Mara gasped. "Learned? You mean it became intelligent?" Tom nodded. "Not in the way we think of intelligence, but it behaves with purpose. It responds to calculations and adapts." Rian's face was serious. "If this energy is alive, can it be dangerous?" Tom paused. "It could be. If someone tries to force it, it will resist. If left alone, it may help us. We must approach carefully." They decided to send a small drone equipped with sensors to gather more information. Tom programmed the flight path with precise calculations, predicting the energy's movements. Every command had to be exact or the drone would be destroyed. The drone floated into the structure, moving along the glowing threads. Cameras captured intricate patterns, shapes folding and unfolding like living origami. The scientists stared in awe, unable to speak. Then the unexpected happened. A wave of energy pulsed from the structure, striking the drone. The readings skyrocketed. The drone responded as if guided by the structure itself, moving with precision and sending data in real time. Tom leaned closer to the monitor. It's communicating. Not with words, but through the patterns. It wants us to understand it. Mara's eyes widened. This is incredible. Humanity is witnessing something alive from its own creation. Commander Ryan spoke cautiously. Are we ready to make contact? Tom hesitated. We cannot rush. We must respect it. This energy remembers what we did, both our mistakes and our intentions. If we act with care, it could guide us. If we act with fear, it could destroy us. Over the next week, Tom and a team of scientists worked tirelessly to decode the energy's patterns. Every calculation, every simulation had to consider the energy's adaptive nature. Slowly, they began to understand it. The structure contained a map of space, pathways for fold travel far beyond human capability. Tom felt a mix of awe and responsibility. Horizon Fold, the project that had caused so much pain in his past, was giving humanity a second chance. But it demanded respect. One evening as the sun set, Mara found Tom in the observation deck. He was staring at the stars with a thoughtful expression. You seem calm, she said. I am, Tom replied. This is what we hoped for, isn't it? A chance to make things right, Mara smiled. Yes, but are you ready for what comes next? He looked at her, his eyes steady. I don't know. But I know we cannot run from the past. We must face it and learn from it. The next day, the council agreed to a controlled approach. Tom, Mara, and Commander Ryan led a team to send a larger drone capable of interacting with the structure. Every movement was precise. Every calculation was double-checked. As the drone approached, the energy threads rearranged themselves. A path opened, allowing the drone to move safely into the core. Tom monitored the readings carefully. The structure reacted, forming geometric shapes that mirrored the fold equation. It was as if the energy recognized his hand in its creation. Look, Tom said, pointing at the screen. It's acknowledging me, Mara gasped. It's alive? Yes, Tom said softly. And it remembers. It knows who we are and what we are capable of. The drone reached the core. Data streamed back, showing designs for fold travel far beyond anything humans had imagined. Ships could cross entire galaxies in minutes, connecting civilizations and creating possibilities for exploration, trade, and discovery. Commander Ryan shook his head in wonder. This changes everything, Tom nodded. It is not just about speed. It is about responsibility. We have to teach others to use this wisely. The following weeks were filled with careful experiments. Tom guided the scientists, showing them how to interact with the energy safely. Every test succeeded. The energy seemed to respond to human intent, growing more stable and more useful with each interaction. News spread quickly. Humanity had discovered a living remnant of its own creation, capable of guiding them through the stars. The world celebrated, not only for the scientific breakthrough but for the hope it represented. Mara watched Tom as he worked tirelessly, never seeking attention or reward. She realized that he had grown from a quiet janitor into a symbol of humanity's potential. His humility, patience, and wisdom had transformed fear into hope. One evening, after another successful test, Mara approached Tom. The Academy, the world, even other civilizations, they all want to honor you. How do you feel? Tom looked out the window at the stars. I feel like a small part of something much larger. This energy, the universe, humanity itself. We are connected. Recognition does not matter. What matters is that we do the right thing. Mara smiled. You truly believe that humans can rise to greatness? I do, Tom replied. Not because we are the strongest or the smartest. Because we are capable of learning, of listening, and of caring. That is what makes us human. Months passed. The Fold Academy program expanded. Young engineers and scientists traveled to distant colonies, teaching others how to fold space responsibly. Tom trained them, always emphasizing patience and respect for the energy they now called Horizon Life. One day, a new challenge appeared. Reports came from an alien civilization observing the energy's growth. They had assumed humanity was reckless. Now they were curious and cautious. Tom welcomed them. He communicated through mathematics and shared principles of balance and care. Within weeks, humans and aliens collaborated on space exploration using the Fold Drive. Ships traveled safely across galaxies, mapping new worlds and sharing knowledge. Humanity's reputation among civilizations changed. Once seen as chaotic and impulsive, humans were now recognized as capable of harmony and insight. Tom and Mara watched a fleet of fold ships disappear into the stars from the Academy's observation deck. Mara asked softly, "Do you ever imagine what lies beyond the stars?" Tom smiled faintly. "I do, but I know we will meet it not with fear, but with understanding. We have learned to listen. That is enough to carry us forward." Commander Rian joined them, watching the ships fade. "Humanity owes you a debt, Tom. You showed us what we could become." Tom shook his head. "We all did this. The energy helped us see our own potential. It guided us, but we had to be ready. Humans are special, Mara. We have curiosity, courage, and the ability to care. That is why we survived and why we will thrive." Mara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You taught us that greatness is not about power. It is about wisdom and compassion." The three of them stood in silence, looking at the stars that had once seemed unreachable. Now they were within grasp, a testament to human persistence, humility, and hope. Somewhere in the vast universe, the energy of horizon life pulsed with quiet acknowledgement. It had waited for humanity to understand, and now it would guide them forward. The world had changed, and humans had risen not by force, but by their ability to listen, learn, and care. Tom, the quiet janitor who had once been overlooked, had become the symbol of humanity's greatest potential. He had solved an impossible equation, faced the remnants of the past, and shown the universe that humans were worthy of the stars. And humanity was ready to step into the future, guided by knowledge, respect, and the courage to explore the unknown.